exercise. There are a few key things you need to accomplish. First, sketch very lightly on your still life. It's important to sketch lightly because erasing your composition at certain points is actually part of the plan. Use 5 shades of value throughout the image, especially on your rounded objects like your sphere or cylinder. Adjust your scale correctly, don't run off the edges, and don't make your objects too big. Keep the edges of the composition about 1.5 inches away from the edge of the paper. Don't make your image so small that you're wasting a lot of your surface area. I also want to talk very briefly about vertical perspective. On panel number 1, you have an apple and a pear. Which one is closer to you? If you trust your instincts, you probably said an apple, but because the pear is bigger, it might be confusing, but it could also just be a big pear. In panel number 2, you'll see that the pear is actually closer to the apple because it's lower on the page's composition. This vertical arrangement of objects, or in this case fruit, is called vertical perspective. How high or low you place the object determines how close it is to the viewer. As you can see on panel number 3, it's actually pretty easy to tell. The apple is clearly closer to you than the pear. We know this not only because it is placed lower on the drawing area, it's overlapping the pear, obscuring part of its view. However, things get really confusing on panel number 4. If you see that the pear is not only placed higher, but it placed in front of the apple, obscuring parts of the apple. This shows the viewer that not only is the pear closer to us, it possesses magical powers for floating. I haven't seen very many pieces of fruit that can pull this off, but if you can figure it out, you'll probably have a pretty sound career in the science fields. The purpose of this exercise is not to redefine the science fields, however. So, for the purpose of our still life, let's just make most of our objects arranged in a way that makes sense with regular gravity, like you see in panel number 3. For the purpose of this exercise, I've presented an image of geometric forms in the top left corner. Sketching is a really important part of determining your composition of your drawing. You look at these sloppy lines and layout, and you might be thinking to yourself, this is sort of a bad drawing. And the truth of the matter is, you're right. It's not a good drawing. But it does do one thing really effectively. It's a good sketch. A good sketch allows us to figure out how big the objects are, whether or not they fit on the page effectively, and it helps us figure out how far from the borders our composition is going to be. Be sure you don't make your objects too big so that they crop to the edges of the paper. And if you make them too small and waste all of this surface area, you're using too much negative space in your composition. Keep your images about 1.5 inches away from the edge of your paper. After you finish sketching it in, you can go and clean up your composition. Then apply your values to your corrected shapes.